Welcome to Sleep Story. Let the soothing cadence of a story weave through your consciousness, lulling your body to rest and your mind to tranquility as you drift into dreams on the wings of imagination.
However, when Zhuan saw that Sun Lady's room was lined with spears and swords on both sides, and that the maids were all wearing swords, he couldn't help but lose his color. The housekeeper said, "Your Excellency, please do not be alarmed. The lady has loved watching martial arts since she was young, and she often has her maids practice sword fighting for fun, which is why it is like this," Zhuan said. "This is not something the lady should be watching. It makes me very uneasy. Please have them leave for now," the housekeeper reported to Sun Lady. "The weapons displayed in the room have unsettled the honored guest. Let us remove them for now." Sun Lady laughed and said, "After a lifetime of battle, do you still fear weapons?" She ordered all the weapons to be removed and instructed the maidservants to sheathe their swords and attend to their duties. That night, Zhuan and Sun Lady were married, and their hearts were filled with joy. Zhuan also distributed gold and silk to the maidservants to win their hearts, and first sent Sun Qian back to Jingzhou to report the good news. From then on, they drank wine day after day. The Empress Dowager loved and respected him greatly. Meanwhile, Sun Quan sent someone to Chasing County to report to Zhao Yun, saying, "My mother insisted on marrying my sister to Liu Bei. I never expected it to become reality. What should we do now?" Upon hearing this, Zhao Yun was greatly alarmed, unable to sit or stand in peace. He then devised a plan, wrote a secret letter, and had the messenger return with it to Sun Quan. Sun Quan opened the letter and read it. The letter read, in part, "The matter I had planned has unexpectedly turned out this way. Since it has become reality, we must now use this situation to our advantage." Liu Bei, with his heroic demeanor, the generals Guan Yu, Zhong Fei, and Zhao Yun, and the strategic brilliance of Jingzhou, is not one to remain subordinate for long. My suggestion is to weaken him in Wu, build grand palaces to distract his mind, send beautiful women and treasures to entertain his senses, divide Guan Yu and Zhong Fei's loyalty, and distance Jingzhou's connection, place them in separate regions, then attack with troops, and the matter will be settled. If we let him go now, it's like letting a dragon into the clouds and rain. He'll never be confined to a pond again. I urge Your Excellency to give this careful consideration." Sun Quan finished reading the letter and showed it to Zhongzhao. Zhongzhao said, "Gongjin's plan aligns perfectly with my own thoughts. Liu Bei rose from humble beginnings, wandering the land, and has never enjoyed wealth and luxury. If we now provide him with grand halls and mansions, daughters and treasures, allowing him to indulge in such luxuries, he will naturally grow distant from Jingzhou, Guan Yu, and Zhong Fei, causing them to harbor grievances. Then, Jingzhou can be conquered. Your Excellency should follow Gongjin's plan and act swiftly." Sun Quan was overjoyed and immediately renovated the Eastern Palace, planted flowers and trees, and prepared luxurious furnishings for Zhuan and his sister to reside in. He also added dozens of female musicians and adorned the palace with gold, jade, brocades, and other precious items. Empress Dowager Sun believed Sun Quan's intentions were sincere and was overjoyed. Zhuan was indeed captivated by the splendor and no longer desired to return to Jingzhou. Meanwhile, Zhao Yun and 500 soldiers were stationed at the Eastern Palace. With nothing to do all day except go outside the city to shoot arrows and ride horses. As the year drew to a close, Zhao Yun suddenly realized, Guan Yu gave me 3 silk pouches, instructing me to open the first one upon arriving in Nanjing, the second one by the end of the year, and the third one when facing dire straits with no way out. Inside are ingenious strategies to ensure the Lord's safe return. Now that the year is nearly over, the Lord is obsessed with women and refuses to meet me. Why not open the second silk pouch and follow its plan? He then opened it and looked inside. It was indeed a brilliant strategy. He immediately went to the mansion hall to see Zhuandi. The maid servant reported, Zhao Zilong has come with urgent news for the nobleman. Zhuandi summoned him to ask. Yun feigned surprise and said, My lord, you dwell in the painted hall, yet you do not think of Jingzhou. Zhuandi said, What is so alarming? Yun said, This morning, Kong Ming sent word that Cao Cao seeks revenge for the defeat at the Battle of Red Cliffs, has raised an army of 50,000 elite troops, and is marching on Jingzhou. The situation is dire. Please return at once. Zhuandi said, I must consult with the lady. Yun said, If you consult with the lady, she will certainly refuse to let you return. It is better not to mention it. We should depart tonight. Delaying will only cause trouble, Zhuandi said. You may withdraw for now. I have my own plans. Yun deliberately urged him several times before leaving. Zhuandi entered to see Sun Lady and shed tears in secret. Sun Lady said, Why are you so troubled, my husband? Zhuandi replied, I am a wanderer in a foreign land, unable to serve my parents or worship my ancestors, which is a great act of disobedience and disrespect. Now that the new year is approaching, I cannot help but feel sad and depressed. Sun Lady said, Don't try to hide it from me. I already know. Just now, Zhao Zilong reported that Jingzhou is in danger, and you want to return home, so you are using this as an excuse. Zhuandi knelt and said, Since you already know, how dare I hide it from you? If I stay, Jingzhou may be lost, and I will be mocked by the world. If I go, I cannot bear to leave you. That is why I am troubled. Lady Sun said, I have already pledged my loyalty to you. Wherever you go, I will follow, Zhuandi said. Though your heart is thus, how can the Empress Dowager and the Prince of Wu possibly allow you to go? If you pity Liu Bei, please part with me for now. Having spoken, tears streamed down his face. Sun Lady urged, Husband, do not be distressed. I will plead earnestly with my mother. She will surely allow me to accompany you, Zhuandi said. Even if the Empress Dowager agrees, the Wu will certainly oppose it. Sun Lady pondered for a long time, then said, On New Year's Day, when we pay our respects, I will claim I am going to the riverbank to worship our ancestors and leave without informing anyone. What do you think? Zhuandi knelt again and thanked her, saying, If you do this, I will never forget it, no matter what happens. Please do not reveal this to anyone. The two made their plans. Zhuandi secretly summoned Zhao Yun and instructed him, On New Year's Day, you shall lead the soldiers out of the city and wait on the official road. I will claim to be paying respects to our ancestors and leave with the lady. Yun agreed. In the first month of the 15th year of the Jianan era, on New Year's Day, the Wu gathered the civil and military officials in the hall. Zhuandi and Sun Lady entered to pay respects to the Empress Dowager. Sun Lady said, My lord misses his parents' and ancestors' graves, which are all in Zhuo County, and he is deeply saddened day and night. Today, he wishes to go to the riverbank to offer a distant sacrifice to the north. He must inform his mother of this, the Empress Dowager said. This is filial piety. How could I refuse? Though you do not know your in-laws, you may accompany your husband to pay respects, which also demonstrates the proper etiquette of a wife, Sun Lady, and Xuandi bowed in gratitude and departed. At this time, Sun Quan was kept in the dark. The lady boarded a carriage, bringing only her personal belongings. Xuandi mounted his horse, led a few riders out of the city, and met with Zhao Yun. 500 soldiers surrounded them, and they departed from Nanjing, traveling swiftly. That day, Sun Quan was heavily intoxicated, and his attendants escorted him into the inner chambers. The officials and military officers dispersed. By the time the officials discovered that Xuandi and the lady had fled, it was already late. They wished to inform Sun Quan, but he was unconscious from drunkenness. By the time he fell asleep, it was already the 5th watch of the night. The next day, Sun Quan heard that Xuandi had fled and urgently summoned the civil and military officials to discuss the matter. Zhao said, "Now that this man has fled, trouble will inevitably arise sooner or later. We must pursue him immediately." Sun Quan ordered Chen, Wu and Pan Zhong to select 500 elite soldiers and pursue him day and night, determined to capture him and bring him back. The 2 generals accepted the order and departed. Sun Quan deeply resented Xuandi and smashed the jade inkstone on the table into pieces. Cheng Pu said, "Your Excellency's anger is unfounded. I predict that Chen, Wu and Pan Zhong will not be able to capture this man." Sun Quan said, "How dare you disobey my orders?" Cheng Pu said, "The princess has always been fond of military affairs since childhood. She's strict, upright, and just, and all the generals fear her. Since she has agreed to follow Liu Bei, she must have left with him in unity. The generals being pursued, if they see the princess, how could they dare to act?" Sun Quan flew into a rage, drew the sword he wore at his waist, summoned Zhong Qin and Zhou Tai to receive orders, and said, "You to take this sword and bring me my sister and Liu Bei's head. Anyone who disobeys my orders will be executed on the spot." Zhong Qin and Zhou Tai accepted the orders and led 1,000 troops in pursuit. Meanwhile, Xuandi urged his horse onward, riding swiftly along the road. That night, they stopped briefly for 2 watches before hastily setting off again. As they approached the border of Chaisung, they saw a great cloud of dust rising behind them. A messenger reported, "The pursuing troops have arrived." Xuandi panicked and asked Zhao Yun, "Now that the pursuing troops have arrived, what shall we do?" Zhao Yun replied, "My lord should proceed ahead. I will remain behind to hold the rear." As they rounded the bend at the foot of the mountain, a contingent of troops blocked their path. Two generals at the front shouted loudly, "Liu Bei, dismount and surrender. We are here by the orders of Zhou Yu, the military commander, and have been waiting for you for a long time." It turned out that Zhou Yu feared Xuandi might escape, so he had sent Su Sheng and Ding Feng with 3,000 troops to set up camp at a strategic location and wait. They frequently sent men to climb high ground to look out, and they had deduced that if Xuandi took the land route, he would inevitably pass through this area. On that day, Su Sheng and Ding Feng spotted Liu Bei's party approaching and blocked their path with their weapons. Liu Bei, panicked, turned his horse around and asked Zhao Yun, "There are troops blocking our path ahead and pursuing us from behind. We are trapped with no way out. What should we do?" Zhao Yun replied, "My lord, do not panic. The military strategist has 3 ingenious plans, all contained within silk pouches, to have already been opened, and both proved effective. There is still a 3rd one here, which was instructed to be opened only in times of dire peril. Today is such a time. We should open it and see." He then opened the silk pouch and presented it to Xuandi. Xuandi looked at it and hurried to the carriage to weep and tell Sun Lady, "I have a matter of the utmost importance to discuss. I must now speak openly." The lady said, "My husband, what is it you wish to say? Speak openly to me. Xuandi said. In the past, Sun Quan and Zhao Yun conspired to marry Lady Sun to Liu Bei. This was not for Lady Sun's sake, but to trap Liu Bei and seize Jingzhou. Once Jingzhou is seized, they will certainly kill Liu Bei. Thus, Lady Sun was used as bait to lure Liu Bei. I came here despite the risk of death, knowing that Lady Sun has the heart of a man and would surely pity me. Yesterday, I heard that Sun Quan intended to harm me, so I pretended that Jingzhou was in trouble to plan my escape. Fortunately, you did not abandon me, and we came here together. Now Sun Quan has sent men to pursue us from behind, and Zhao Yun has sent men to block our path ahead. Only you can resolve this crisis. If you refuse, I will die before your carriage to repay your kindness, the lady said angrily. Since my brother does not regard me as his own flesh and blood, how can I show my face to him again? I'll resolve this crisis myself. She then ordered her attendants to push the carriage forward, rolled up the curtain, and shouted at Su Sheng and Ding Feng, "Are you two trying to rebel?" Su and Ding hurriedly dismounted, discarded their weapons, and bowed before the carriage, saying, "We dare not rebel. We are here on Zhao Yun's orders, stationed to await Liu Bei." Sun Lady flew into a rage and said, "Zhao Yun, you traitor! The Eastern Wu has never wronged you. Liu Bei is the uncle of the Han Emperor and my husband. I have already informed my mother and brother of my intention to return to Jingzhou. Now you two have led your troops to block the road at the foot of the mountain, intending to plunder our property." Su Sheng and Ding Feng repeatedly bowed and said, "We dare not." "Please calm your anger, madam. This has nothing to do with us. It is Zhao Yun's order," Sun Lady scolded. "You fear Zhao Yun, but do you not fear me? If Zhao Yun can kill you, can I not kill Zhao Yun?" She berated Zhao Yun viciously and ordered the cart to move forward. Su Sheng and Ding Feng thought to themselves, "We are mere servants. How dare we defy the lady?" Seeing Zhao Yun's intense anger, they had no choice but to halt the troops and clear a path for them to pass. Just as they had traveled less than 5 or 6 li, Chen Wu and Pan Zhong caught up from behind. Su Sheng and Ding Feng explained the situation. Chen and Pan said, "You were wrong to let him pass. We too were sent by Sun Quan to capture him and bring him back." Thus, the 4 generals joined forces and hurried to catch up. As Xuandi was traveling, he suddenly heard a loud commotion from behind. Xuandi again told Sun Lady, "The pursuing troops have arrived again. What shall we do?" The lady said, "My husband shall go first, and I shall follow with Zilong." Xuandi led 300 soldiers toward the riverbank. Zilong reined in his horse beside the carriage, arranged the troops in formation, and waited for the approaching generals. The 4 generals, upon seeing Sun Lady, dismounted and stood with their hands clasped. The lady asked Chen Wu and Pan Zhong, "What brings you here?" The 2 generals replied, "We are here on the orders of our lord to escort the lady and Xuandi back." The lady scolded them sternly, "It is all because of you ruffians that my brother and I are estranged. I have already married another man, and returning today is not an elopement. I am following my mother's kind instructions to return to Jingzhou with my husband. Even if my brother were to come, he must follow proper etiquette. You to rely on your military might. Do you intend to kill me?" Her scolding left the 4 men staring at each other in silence, each thinking to themselves, they will always be brother and sister. Moreover, the Empress Dowager is in charge. Wu Ho is a man of great filial piety. How dare he defy his mother's words? If we turn against him tomorrow, it will only be our fault. It's better to do him a favor. There was no sign of Xuandi in the army. Only Zhao Yun, with his eyes wide open and brows furrowed, ready to fight. Therefore, The four generals retreated with a series of nods. Sun Lady ordered the cart to move on, Su Sheng said. The four of us will go together to see Zhou Dudu and report this matter. The four hesitated. Suddenly, a force swept in like a whirlwind. Upon closer inspection, it was Zhong Qin and Zhou Tai. The two generals asked, "Have you seen Liu Bei?" The four replied, "He passed by this morning." "It has been half a day," Zhong Qin asked. "Why didn't you capture him?" The four explained Lady Sun's orders. Zhong Qin said, "It is precisely because the Wu fears such a situation that he has sealed a sword here, ordering that his sister be killed first, followed by Liu Bei. Those who disobey will be executed on the spot." The four generals said, "They have already gone far away." "What can we do?" Zhong Qin said. "They are merely infantry. They cannot move quickly. Generals Su and Ding should rush to report to the commander, ordering that fast boats be sent by water to pursue them. The four of us will pursue along the shore, regardless of whether the path is by water or land. We will catch up and kill them, and not listen to their words." Thus, Su Sheng and Ding Feng swiftly reported to Zhou Yu. Zhong Qin, Zhou Tai, Chen Wu, and Pan Zhong led their troops along the river to pursue. Meanwhile, Xuan's party had traveled far from Chaisung and arrived at Liulang Pu, where their hearts were slightly at ease. As they searched along the river bank for a crossing, they saw the river stretched out endlessly before them, with no boats in sight. Xuandi bowed his head in deep thought. Zhao Yun said, "My lord has escaped from the jaws of the tiger. Now that we are nearing our own territory, I am sure the military strategist must have made arrangements. Why hesitate?" Xuandi, upon hearing this, suddenly recalled the prosperous days in Wu, and could not help but shed tears of sorrow. A later poet composed a verse in lamentation. Wu and Shu united in marriage by this river, pearls and gold adorned the halls. Who knew that one woman could sway the world, seeking to alter Liu Lang's resolve to stand firm. Xuandi ordered Zhao Yun to scout ahead 4 boats. Suddenly, a report came that dust was rising in the sky behind them. Xuandi climbed a hill to look, and saw troops and horses covering the land. He sighed. After days of relentless pursuit, both men and horses are exhausted, and now the pursuing troops have arrived. There is no escape. As the shouts grew closer, just as they were in a panic, they suddenly saw over 20 flat cotton boats lined up along the river bank. Zhao Yun said, "Fortunately, there are boats here. Why not quickly board them, row across to the other side, and make further arrangements?" Xuandi and Sun Lady hurriedly boarded the boats. Zilong led 500 soldiers onto the boats as well. Suddenly, a man in a scholar's robe and cap emerged from the cabin, laughing, and said, "My lord, rejoice. Zhu Liang has been waiting here for you for some time." The men on the boat, dressed as passengers, were all soldiers from Jingzhou. Xuandi was overjoyed. Before long, the 4 generals arrived. Zhu Liang pointed at the people on the shore and said with a smile, "I have calculated this for a long time. Go back and tell Zhou Yu not to use such tactics again." Arrows flew from the shore, but the boat had already sailed far away. Zhong Qin and the other 4 generals could only watch helplessly. As Xuandi and Zhu Liang were sailing, suddenly there was a loud noise on the river. They turned to look and saw countless warships. Under the banner bearing the character Shuai, Zhou Yu personally led his seas and naval forces, with Wang Gai on the left and Han Dang on the right. They charged forward like galloping horses, swift as shooting stars, closing in rapidly. Zhu Liang ordered the oarsmen to steer the boats toward the northern shore, abandon the vessels, and all disembarked to flee on foot, with the chariots and horses following suit. Zhou Yu arrived at the river bank and also dismounted to pursue on foot. All the naval forces were on foot, except for the leading officers who remained mounted. Zhao Yun led the way, followed closely by Wang Gai, Han Dang, Su Sheng, and Ding Feng. Zhao Yun asked, "Where are we?" The soldiers replied, "This is the border of Guangzhou." Seeing that Liu Bei's troops were not far ahead, Zhao Yun ordered them to pursue with all their strength. Just as they were catching up, a drumbeat sounded, and a group of sword-wielding soldiers emerged from the mountains. At the front was a great General Guan Yu. Zhao Yun lost his. It so happened that Zhao Yun was ambushed by Zhu Jiang, who had secretly stationed Luo Guanzhong, and Wei Yan's 3 armies in advance, resulting in a decisive defeat. Wang Gai and Han Dang hurriedly boarded their ships, but lost countless naval forces. From afar, Zhao Yun saw that Liu Bei and Sun Quan's wife, along with their entourage, had all stopped on the mountaintop. How could Zhao Yun not be furious? His arrow wound had not yet healed, and due to the surge of anger, the wound burst open, causing him to faint on the ground. The generals revived him and fled by ship. Zhu Jiang advised against pursuing them and returned with Zhuandi to Jingzhou to celebrate the victory, rewarding the generals. Zhao Yun returned to chasing. Zhong Qin and his men returned to Nanjing to report to Sun Quan. Quan was furious and wanted to appoint Cheng Pu as commander-in-chief to launch an expedition against Jingzhou. Zhao Yun also submitted a memorial, requesting to raise an army to avenge the humiliation. Zhang Zhao advised, "It is not advisable. Cao Cao has been plotting revenge for the Battle of Red Cliffs day and night, but he has refrained from launching an attack out of fear that Sun Quan and Liu Bei might unite. If your Majesty acts on a momentary impulse of anger and engages in internal conflict, Cao Cao will certainly take advantage of the situation to attack, and the nation will be in peril." Gu Yong said, "Are there no spies from Zudu here? If they learn of the discord between Sun Quan and Liu Bei, Cao Cao will certainly send someone to ally with Liu Bei. Liu Bei, fearing the Eastern Wu, will inevitably turn to Cao Cao. If that happens, when will the South be at peace? The best course of action now is to send someone to Zudu to recommend Liu Bei as the governor of Jingzhou. Once Cao Cao knows this, he will be afraid and dare not attack the southeast. Moreover, Liu Bei will not harbor resentment toward the Lord. Then, we can use a trusted confidant to employ a strategy of sowing discord, causing Cao Cao and Liu Bei to attack each other, while we take advantage of the opportunity to act. This is the best course of action," Sun Quan said. "Yuan Tan's words are very wise. But who can be sent as an envoy?" Young said. "There is one person here whom Cao Cao greatly admires. He can be sent as an envoy." Sun Quan asked who it was. Young said, "Hua Din is here." "Why not send him?" Sun Quan was delighted. He immediately sent Hua Din with the recommendation to Zudu. Hua Din accepted the mission and set off directly for Zudu to see Cao Cao. Upon hearing that Cao Cao was gathering his ministers in Yu County to celebrate the completion of the Copper Tower, Zun proceeded to Yu County to await an audience. Since his defeat at the Battle of Red Cliffs, Cao Cao had constantly sought revenge. However, he feared that Sun Quan and Liu Bei might unite their forces, so he dared not act rashly. In the spring of the 15th year of the Jianan era, the Copper Tower was completed, and Cao Cao convened all his civil and military officials in Yu County to hold a banquet in celebration. The tower overlooked the Zhong River, with the Copper Tower at its center, the Jade Dragon Tower to the left, and the Golden Phoenix Tower to the right, each standing 10 zhong tall. Two bridges connected them, with thousands of doors and windows, their gold and green hues shimmering in the light. On that day, Cao Cao wore a jewel-encrusted golden crown, a green brocade robe, a jade sash, and jeweled shoes, seated atop the tower. The civil and military officials stood below. Cao wanted to watch the military officers compete in archery, so he had his attendants hang a red brocade battle robe from Sichuan on a willow branch, set up an arrow target below, and marked a boundary of 100 paces. The military officers were divided into two teams. The Cao clan wore red, while the rest of the soldiers wore green. Each carried a carved bow and long arrows, mounted their horses, and waited for orders. Cao Cao issued an order. Whoever can hit the red center of the arrow target shall be rewarded with the brocade robe. If they miss, they shall be punished with a cup of water. As soon as the order was given, a young general in the red robe team spurred his horse forward. The crowd recognized him as Cao Zhu. Cao Zhu galloped back and forth 3 times, drew his arrow, pulled the bowstring taut, and released the arrow, which hit the red center precisely. Drums and gongs sounded simultaneously, and the crowd cheered. Cao Cao, watching from the platform, was overjoyed and exclaimed, "This is the prodigy of my family." Just as he was about to send someone to fetch the brocaded robe for Cao Zhu, a rider suddenly emerged from the green-robed contingent, shouting, "The Chancellor's brocaded robe should be given to an outsider first. It is inappropriate for a relative to take it." Cao Cao looked at the man and recognized him as Wen Pin. The official said, "Let us see Wen Zhong's archery skills." Wen Pin drew his bow, galloped forward, and fired an arrow, which also hit the bullseye. Everyone cheered, and the drums and gongs sounded wildly. Wen Pin shouted, "Bring the robe quickly." Suddenly, another general from the red-robed contingent galloped forward and shouted, "Wen Lai shot first. How dare you compete? Watch me settle this with you both." He drew his bow fully and fired an arrow, which also hit the bullseye. Everyone cheered in unison. Upon closer inspection, it was Cao Hong. Just as Hong was about to take the robe, another general from the green-robed squadron galloped out, raised his bow, and shouted, "Your 3 shooting techniques are nothing special. Watch me shoot." Everyone looked and saw that it was Zhong He. Zhong He galloped forward, turned his horse, and shot an arrow backward, also hitting the bullseye. The 4 arrows were all clustered in the bullseye. Everyone exclaimed, "What a great shooting technique!" He said, "The brocade robe should be mine." Before he had finished speaking, a general from the red robe squadron galloped out on his horse and shouted, "Your back to the target shot is nothing special. Watch me take the red center." The crowd looked and saw that it was Shah Yuan. Yuan rushed his horse to the boundary, turned around, and shot an arrow, which landed right in the center of the 4 arrows. Drums and gongs sounded simultaneously. Yuan reined in his horse, drew his bow, and shouted, "Can this arrow claim the brocaded robe?" Suddenly, a general from the green-robed squadron charged forward, shouting, "Leave the brocaded robe for me, Su Wong." Yuan said, "What other shooting technique do you have to claim my robe?" Wong said, "Your back to the target shot is nothing special. Watch me take the brocaded robe alone." He drew his bow and arrow, aimed at the willow branch in the distance, and shot it, breaking the branch and causing the brocaded robe to fall to the ground. Su Wong quickly picked up the robe, put it on, and rode his horse to the front of the platform, bowing and saying, "Thank you, Chancellor, for the robe." Cao Cao and the other officials all expressed their admiration. Just as Su Wong was about to turn his horse around, a green-robed general suddenly leapt out from the side of the platform and shouted, "Where are you taking that brocade robe? Leave it here for me." Everyone looked and saw that it was Su Chu. Su Wong said, "The robe is already here. How dare you try to take it by force?" Su Chu did not respond, but charged forward on his horse to seize the robe. As the two horses drew near, Su Wang drew his bow to shoot Su Chu. Su Chu grabbed the bow with one hand and pulled Su Wang off his saddle. Su Wang quickly abandoned the bow, dismounted, and Su Chu also dismounted. The two grappled and fought. Cao Cao hurriedly sent someone to separate them. The brocaded robe was already torn to shreds. Cao Cao ordered both men to ascend the platform. Su Wang glared angrily, while Su Chu gritted his teeth, both intent on fighting. Cao Cao laughed and said, "I merely admire your courage. Why should I spare a single brocade robe?" He then ordered all the generals to ascend the platform, bestowing a piece of shoe brocade upon each. The generals all expressed their gratitude. Cao Cao commanded them to take their seats according to their ranks. Music played, and both land and water dishes were served. Civil and military officials took turns raising their cups, exchanging toasts. Cao Cao turned to the civil officials and said, "The military officials have demonstrated their bravery through horseback archery. You are all erudite scholars. Having ascended this high platform, should you not compose fine verses to commemorate this momentous occasion?" All the officials bowed and replied, "We shall obey your command." At that time, Wang Lang, Zhong Yao, Wang Can, Chen Lin, and a group of civil officials presented their poems. The poems contained many praises of Cao Cao's great virtues and his suitability to rule. Cao Cao read them one by one and laughed, saying, "Your fine works are too flattering. I am a simple man who was originally nominated as a filial and upright official. Later, during the great chaos of the world, I built a secluded retreat 50 li east of Chiao, intending to read books in spring and summer and hunt in autumn and winter, waiting for the world to be at peace before entering officialdom. I never expected the court to summon me as commander of the Imperial Guard, so I changed my plans, dedicating myself to eliminating rebels and achieving military glory for the nation, hoping that after my death, my tombstone would read, 'The tomb of Cao Ho, the former general of the west of the Han dynasty.' That would fulfill my lifelong wish. Since I began campaigning against Dongzhuo and suppressing the Yellow Turban Rebellion, I have eliminated Yuan Shu, defeated Liu Bei, annihilated Yuan Shao, subdued Liu Bei, and ultimately pacified the realm. As Chancellor, I have attained the pinnacle of honor among ministers. What more could I possibly desire? If the state had no one like me, who knows how many would claim the throne or declare themselves kings? Some, seeing my great power, have rashly speculated that I harbor treasonous intentions. This is a grave misunderstanding. I often reflect on Confucius' praise of King Wen's supreme virtue, and these words weigh heavily on my heart. But if I were to relinquish my troops and return to the kingdom of Wuping, it would be impossible. I fear that once I lay down my arms, I might be harmed by others. If I were to fail, the nation would be in peril. Therefore, I cannot pursue empty fame while facing real danger. The gentlemen here must surely understand my intentions." All rose and bowed, saying, "Even Yi Yin and Zhou Gong could not match the Chancellor." A later poet wrote, "On the day Zhou Gong feared rumors, Wang Mang humbly served the people. If only he had died then, who would have known the truth of his life?" Cao Cao drank several cups and became intoxicated. He called his attendants to bring him a brush and inkstone, intending to compose a poem about the Copper Tower. Just as he began to write, a report arrived. The envoy from Eastern Wu, Hua Din, has submitted a memorial recommending Liu Bei as the governor of Jingzhou. Sun Quan has married his sister to Liu Bei, and most of the 9 counties of Hanzhong belong to Liu Bei. Upon hearing this, Cao Cao became flustered and threw his brush to the ground. Cheng Yu said, "The Chancellor has never lost his composure amidst the chaos of battle, where arrows and stones fly thick and fast. Why are you so startled now that Liu Bei has obtained Jingzhou?" Cao Cao replied, "Liu Bei is a dragon among men, and he has never had access to water in his life. Now that he has obtained Jingzhou, it is like a trapped dragon entering the vast sea. How could I not be moved?" Cheng Yu asked, "Does the Chancellor know the true intentions of Hua Din?" Cao Cao replied, "I do not know." Cheng Yu explained, Sun Quan has always been wary of Liu Bei and wished to attack him with troops. However, he feared that the Chancellor might take advantage of the situation to strike. Therefore, he sent Hua Din as an envoy to recommend Liu Bei, thereby reassuring Liu Bei and thwarting the Chancellor's ambitions. Cao Cao nodded and said, "That is correct," Win said. "I have a plan to make Sun and Liu devour each other, allowing the Chancellor to take advantage of the situation and defeat both enemies in one fell swoop." Cao was overjoyed and asked for the plan. Cheng Win said, "The Eastern Wu relies on Zhou Yu. The Chancellor should now nominate Zhou Yu as the governor of Nanyang and Cheng Pi Yu as the governor of Zhongxia, while keeping Hua Din in the court for important duties. You will inevitably become an enemy of Liu Bei. We can take advantage of their conflict to act against them. Is that not a good plan?" Cao Cao said, "Zhongdi's words are exactly what I had in mind." He then summoned Hua Din to the dais and bestowed generous rewards upon him. That day, after the banquet dispersed, Cao Cao led his officials back to Zukong and submitted a memorial to the emperor, appointing Zhou Yu as the overall commander of Nanyang Commandery and Cheng Pi Yu as the governor of Zhongxia Commandery. Hua Din was appointed as the deputy minister of justice and remained in Zukong. When the imperial edict reached Dongwu, Zhou Yu and Cheng Pi Yu each accepted their appointments. After Zhou Yu took control of Nanyang, he became even more determined to seek revenge. He submitted a memorial to Sun Quan, requesting that Lu Su be sent to reclaim Jingzhou. Sun Quan then ordered Lu Su, "You once guaranteed the loan of Jingzhou to Liu Bei. Now that Liu Bei has delayed returning it, how much longer must we wait?" Su replied, "The documents clearly state that it will be returned once Xiangyang is secured." Sun Quan scolded, "You only spoke of taking Xiangyang, yet to this day no troops have been moved. Are you waiting for us to grow old?" Su said, "I am willing to go and speak with him." He then set sail for Jingzhou. Meanwhile, Zhuandi and Kong Ming were gathering grain and foraging in Jingzhou, training troops, and attracting many scholars and warriors from near and far. Suddenly, it was reported that Lu Su had arrived. Zhuandi asked Kong Ming, "What is the purpose of Zai Jing's visit?" Kong Ming replied, "Yesterday, Sun Quan nominated your majesty as the governor of Jingzhou. This is a ploy to intimidate Cao Cao. Cao Cao appointed Zhou Yu as the governor of Nanyang, intending to make our two families fight each other so that he can take advantage of the situation. Now Lu Su has come, and since Zhou Yu has already accepted the position of governor, he has come to demand Jingzhou." Zhuandi asked, "How should we respond?" Kong Ming said, "If Lu Su brings up the matter of Jingzhou, your majesty should burst into tears. When the crying becomes most heartfelt, I will come out to mediate." The plan was set, and Lu Su was invited into the mansion. After the formalities were completed, they sat down. Lu Su said, "Now that your Royal Highness has become the son-in-law of the Eastern Wu, you are my master." "How dare I sit?" Zhuandi laughed and said, "Zai Jing, we are old friends. Why be so humble?" Lu Su then sat down. After tea, Lu Su said, I have come here on behalf of the Eastern Wu ruler, specifically regarding the matter of Jingzhou. Your royal uncle has been staying there for a long time, yet it has not been returned. Now that the two families are related by marriage, we should consider the familial ties and return it promptly. Upon hearing this, Xuan covered his face and wept bitterly. Su was startled and asked, "Why are you crying so, your royal uncle?" Xuan's sobs did not cease. Zhao emerged from behind the screen and said, "I have been listening for a long time. Do you know why my master is crying, Zhao?" Su replied, "I truly do not know." Zhao said, "What is so difficult to see? When my master borrowed Jingzhou, he promised to return it once he had secured Sichuan. Upon careful consideration, Liu of Yizhou is my master's younger brother, and they are both descendants of the Han dynasty. If we were to raise an army to seize his city, we might be ridiculed by outsiders. If we do not seize it and return Jingzhou, where would we go? If we do not return it, it would not look good to your uncle. The situation is truly dilemma, hence the tears flowing from my heart." After Zhao finished speaking, he touched Xuan's heart, causing him to beat his chest and stomp his feet, weeping aloud. Lu Su advised, "Your royal uncle, please do not worry. Discuss this matter thoroughly with Zhao." Zhao said, "I entrust you, Zijing, to return and report to the Wu. Do not hesitate to speak your mind. Plead this distressing situation to the Wu and request a few more days." Lu Su asked, "What if the Wu refuses?" Kong Ming replied, "Since the Wu has already betrothed his younger sister to the emperor, how could he refuse? I implore you to convey this message with kindness." Lu Su, being a kind and compassionate elder, saw how deeply grieved Xuan was and could only agree. Xuan and Kong Ming bowed in gratitude. After the banquet, they saw Lu Su off to his ship. They went straight to Chaisung and reported the matter to Zhao Yu. Zhao Yu stamped his foot and said, "Zijing has fallen for Zhao scheme again." When Liu Bei was under Liu Bei, he always had ambitions to conquer others. How much more so with Yu Zhong of Western Shu? Such evasion will inevitably bring trouble to you, my elder brother. I have a plan that will prevent Zhao from outsmarting me. You should go and carry it out, Su said. I would like to hear your brilliant strategy, Yu said. You don't need to go see the king of Wu. Go to Jingzhou and tell Liu Bei. The Sun and Liu families have become in-laws, so we are now one family. If the Liu family is unwilling to take Sichuan, our Eastern Wu forces will march there. Once we have taken Sichuan, we will use it as dowry and return Jingzhou to Eastern Wu. Su said, Sichuan is far away, and it will not be easy to take. Is the commander's plan really feasible? Yu laughed and said, Zijing, you are truly wise. Do you think I would truly go to take Sichuan for him? I am using this as an excuse. My true intention is to take Jingzhou, and to prevent him from making preparations. When the Eastern Wu army marches to take Sichuan, passing through Jingzhou, we will demand provisions from him. Liu Bei will inevitably come out of the city to greet the troops. At that time, we will seize the opportunity to kill him, take Jingzhou, avenge our grievance, and resolve your predicament. Lu Su was overjoyed and returned to Jingzhou. Xuan discussed the matter with Kong Ming. Kong Ming said, Lu Su must not have seen the Wu yet. He has only gone to Chaisung to discuss strategies with Zhao Yu to lure us, whatever he says. Your Majesty should only nod in agreement and promise to comply. The plan was set. Lu Su entered to pay his respects. After the formalities, he said, The Wu greatly praises the noble virtues of the royal uncle. He has discussed with the generals to raise an army to help the royal uncle conquer Sichuan. Once Sichuan is taken, it will be exchanged for Jingzhou, with Sichuan serving as the dowry. However, we hope for some provisions as the troops pass through. Kong Ming nodded hurriedly and said, "How kind of the Wu." Xuandi bowed in gratitude and said, "This is all thanks to Zai Jing's wise words." Kong Ming said, "When the great army arrives, we will go out to greet and entertain them." Liu Su was secretly delighted and took his leave after the banquet. Xuandi asked Kong Ming, "What does this mean?" Kong Ming laughed and said, "Zhao Yu's days are numbered. Such a scheme would not fool even a child." Xuandi asked again how this was so, and Kong Ming replied, "This is the borrowing a path to destroy Guo's strategy. The nominal purpose is to govern Shu, but the true aim is to seize Jingzhou. When the Lord leaves the city to inspect the troops, we will seize the opportunity to capture him, enter the city, and attack when they are unprepared, strike when they least expect it." Xuandi asked, "What should we do?" Zhu Ziyong replied, "Your Excellency, rest assured. Just prepare the trap to capture the tiger and the bait to catch the giant fish. When Zhao Yu arrives, even if he doesn't die, he will be 9 parts exhausted." He then summoned Zhao Yun to hear the plan. "Do this and that. The rest I will handle myself." Xuandi was overjoyed. A later poet composed a poem in praise. Zhao Yu devised a plan to seize Jingzhou, but Zhu Ziyong had already foreseen it. He hoped the Yangtze River would be a safe bait, but he did not know the fishing hook was hidden beneath. Meanwhile, Liu Su returned to see Zhao Yu and reported that Xuandi and Kong Ming were overjoyed and preparing to go out to greet the troops. Zhao Yu laughed heartily and said, "It seems I have outwitted them once again." He then instructed Liu Su to report to the Wu ruler and dispatched Cheng Pu to lead troops as reinforcements. At this time, Zhao Yu's arrow wound had healed, and he was in good health. He appointed Gan Ning as his vanguard, with Su Sheng and Ding Feng as his second in command, Ling Tong and Le Meng as his rear guard, and 50,000 troops on land and sea, heading for Jingzhou. Zhao Yu was on the ship, laughing from time to time, thinking that Kong Ming had fallen into his trap. When the vanguard arrived at Xiaku, Zhao Yu asked, "Is anyone from Jingzhou here to greet us?" Someone reported, "Liu Bei has sent me Zhu to meet the commander." Zhao Yu summoned him and asked about the state of the troops. Mi Zhu replied, "The Lord has made all the necessary preparations." Zhao Yu asked, "Where is Liu Bei?" Mi Zhu said, "He's waiting outside the gates of Jingzhou to meet the commander," Yu said. "We are now on a distant campaign for your family's sake. The ceremony for the troops must not be taken lightly." Mi Zhu took his leave and returned first. The warships were densely arrayed on the river, advancing in order. As they approached Gong'an, there were no military ships in sight, nor anyone coming out to meet them. Zhao Yu urged the ships to move faster, about 10 miles from Jingzhou. The river surface was calm and still. Scouts reported, "Two white flags are flying on the walls of Jingzhou city, but no one is in sight." Zhao Yu grew suspicious, ordered the ships to dock, dismounted, and rowed ashore with Gan Ning, Su Sheng, Ding Feng, and other officers, leading 3,000 elite troops directly toward Jingzhou. Upon reaching the city walls, there was no movement. Zhao Yu reined in his horse and ordered the soldiers to call out. Someone on the city walls asked who they were. The Wu army replied, "It is Zhao Yu, the commander-in-chief of the Eastern Wu, here in person." Before they could finish speaking, a sudden drumbeat sounded, and the soldiers on the city walls all raised their spears and swords. Zhao Yun emerged from the enemy tower and asked, "What is the purpose of your visit, Commander?" Zhao Yu replied, "I am here to take Xuan for your lord." "Do you not know this yet?" Yun said. Military advisor Kong Ming already knows of the commander's borrowing a path to destroy Guo's strategy, so he left Zhao Yun here. My lord said, "I and Yu Zhong are both relatives of the Han dynasty. How can I betray our loyalty and take Sichuan? If you, the Eastern Wu, truly take Shu, I will retreat to the mountains and remain true to my word to the world." Upon hearing this, Zhao Yu turned his horse and returned. Suddenly, a man bearing a banner with the character order approached and reported, "Scouts have discovered that 4 armies are advancing simultaneously. Guan Yu is coming from Jiangling, Zhong Fei from Zigu, Guanzhong from Gong'an, and Wei Yan from the small path at Chanling. The exact number of troops is unknown." The cries of battle shake the land for over 100 li, all claiming to capture Zhao Yu. Zhao Yu let out a loud cry. His arrow wound reopened, and he fell from his horse. As the saying goes, a single move too high makes it hard to match the enemy. All calculations end in vain. What will become of his life? Stay tuned for the next chapter.